game all over again in the fourth. Saban with the tie on top.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Christian Ballard of Ballard Sports Media coming at you with Tidal Wave Talk this week. Did you expect this going into the season? Did you expect this? It's Christian Ballard of Ballard Sports Media. Tidal Wave Talk, Week 13. We got the Dogs and we got the Crimson Tide. In the SEC Championship, let's go. I'm excited. And before we get into the game itself this week, I got to give a shout out to all the Dog fans out there, even the Alabama fans of this community. But I got nothing but love and respect for you guys. TikTok Chess Hall and Uncle Lou, BA, K-Dog, Raj. Where you at? Where you been, Raj? I miss you, man. I love all you guys. And we got a great community of college football fans, mostly Georgia fans. I want y'all to know that I love you guys. I got nothing but respect for you guys. And I got respect for Kirby Smart too. But man, has it pissed me off. Honestly, like it has. I mean, you're sitting here talking about Georgia today. You're not talking about Alabama. You're talking about Georgia. Can they three-peat? Can they do it? They got to get past Alabama if they want to make the playoffs. Which, by the way, how does this make any sense? I have heard this week that if Alabama wins, it's not a guarantee to the playoffs, but Georgia's in no matter what. How is it that Georgia loses the SEC title, they get in, but Alabama gets left out? Doesn't make sense to me. But I've literally heard people saying that. I've heard them talking about it. And it just, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I even talked about it with JR at WKUL this week, and he said, yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. So, I mean, well, Georgia's just been so dominant this year. How can you not put them in? Listen, they didn't win their conference. They don't get in. Alabama's a one-loss SEC champion. Put them in. That's it. I mean, it's settled, right? At least we would think. I've also seen where the SEC gets left out altogether. You would have the Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC with Florida State, and the Pac-12. Somebody's got to give. There's a good possibility the SEC is left out of this altogether, depending on how the other conferences play out and depending on how this game looks on Saturday. So we got the SEC Championship 2023 set in stone. Alabama versus Georgia. It is going to be a 4 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Central for the SEC Championship. I look at this game, and my initial thoughts are, how much are you going to give Georgia? Because I'll be the first to admit, Georgia's dominant. They're a great team. Georgia is dominant. They're a great team. What else do you say? But I think there's this narrative of, how can you not take Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs in this game? Do I blame them? No, because they've been dominant. Alabama just hasn't been dominant all the way around this year, but Georgia has. I mean, Georgia, they're going to have close calls on a championship run. Alabama's had close calls. They're coming off a 27-24 victory over Auburn. Georgia struggled with Auburn a little bit. I had picked in the offseason, that Georgia loses to Tennessee. Boy, was I wrong. They blew them out 38-10. But they had a little bit of trouble with Missouri. They had some struggles with Auburn. They only won by 10 against South Carolina. They've had some close calls. They've got through those close calls. Georgia's looked pretty good, but they're not unbeatable. And I would say the same thing for Alabama. They lost to Texas early on. They've looked great since then, but they're not unbeatable. They showed last week against Auburn that they can be beat. Let's go ahead and pull this this up. Let's go ahead and look at this game via ESPN. So you got the SEC championship with Georgia and Alabama. Tidal Wave Talk here, SEC championship edition. I'm excited. I'm ready. Let's go. Now, I'm going to be working for the most part. I go in at 10 a.m. I think I'm there till about 6 or 7 this week. I'll pretty much be working through this game. Georgia is favored. Have I updated this? Yes, by 6 points on the spread. 6 points according to ESPN. They got a 52% chance to win. They give Alabama a 48% chance to win. It's almost 50-50, but Georgia's a slight favorite. Obviously, they could put it at 50-50. They could say even spread. They could, but they're not going to do that for a championship game. You just don't see it. So they got to favor somebody. I don't blame them for favoring Georgia. They're undefeated, right? 12-0 regular season for what is the third straight year. 8-0 in conference play. Third straight year. Alabama. 8-0 in conference play. Not for any number of years other than it's happened before, but this is our first time doing that. I want to say since 2020. 11-1 overall. Only lost to Texas. The last 5 games for each team, they have a couple common opponents. Well, they actually only have one in Tennessee. Georgia looked better against them, and they did it on the road. Alabama struggled with them at home. This is going to be a pretty good game. I doubt Georgia comes into this game. I don't think they come into this game like they're going to blow Alabama out of the water. I don't think they have that mindset. I don't think they're capable of blowing Alabama out of the water. But they're capable of winning, obviously. The last time these two teams met, 33-18, we remember. Georgia beat Alabama. How did they do it? They played great defense. They took away the passing game. And they're going to have to do that against Jalen Milroe this year, this Saturday, if they want a chance to win this football game. I do think it's possible. I think that there's a lot at stake here. But I think who's the pressure on? That's a good question to ask. Is there pressure on Georgia because of how good they've been this year? Or is the pressure on Alabama because Georgia's been that good? And you're Alabama, you're the standard of college football, and you're trying to make sure Georgia doesn't become the standard of college football. I know there's Georgia fans out there that want to go ahead and say, well, we are the standard. We just, back to back. Buddy, like Alabama did that once. And then they won more. Is there more to come from Kirby Smart? I'm going to say yes. But we don't know. I mean, what if they lose this game and it's a downfall and you only have the 2 national titles? College football is unpredictable. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm throwing out some scenarios here. Getting serious for a second, Georgia should win this game. I believe it. Georgia fans believe it. Alabama fans need to understand it, that Georgia should be the team to beat, and they are. They should be the team to win this game, and we don't know what's going to happen. The only thing that I'll say about this is that Alabama should have some motivation. And I think it comes down to one guy, and you know who it is. Nick Saban. Nick Saban being the head coach, the best head coach in college football history, the best in the game today, and the biggest motivator. Actually, I'd say the second biggest motivator. He comes out here, make their quit. Kirby gets pretty hyped up, though. I might say Kirby's a great motivator. Probably the best motivator out there in college football. I'll give it to Kirby. But you want to talk about coaching? Give it to Nick Saban. I'm not taking anything away from Kirby Smart. But you talk about Nick Saban and what he's done for this program in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. You can't deny it. Let me give you some numbers here, too. Let's forget this year. Let's talk about all time with these two. Alabama does lead the series over Georgia. They probably have met more times than you imagined, actually. And you're saying, well, they've met quite a few times, I think. Yeah. But did you know they've met 72 times? Yep. Alabama leads the overall series with Georgia, 42, 26, and 4. And again, the last time they met, Georgia won. I'm going to say this before we get into our prediction time, that this game here, let me put this graphic up on the screen here. This is from CBS on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Saturday, December 2nd at 4 Eastern, Georgia and Alabama go head-to-head. What do we expect? It's Carson Beck. It's Jalen Milroe. I think Carson Beck has looked like the better quarterback. But what else is there? Brock Bowers, is he getting healthy at the right time? I thought I saw him play against Georgia Tech. I could be wrong. Did I not see him on the field? You got to defend that. I think the great matchup for this game is going to be Georgia's receivers on Alabama's secondary. And I'd say the same thing about Georgia, too. They got great secondary. But you talk about Brock Bowers, it's going to be either Kool-Aid McKinstry or Caleb Downs on Brock Bowers. And last time I checked, I don't know. I would assume Brock Bowers is going to play in this game. I'm going to have to look this up here. Let me click on Brock Bowers for a second. Let me pull this up because I think he did. He did play in that Tennessee game. He hasn't actually played since then. And if he hasn't had any receptions or anything. But he played a couple weekends ago against Tennessee, and he looked pretty good. I mean, he looked like as if nothing happened. So, Brock Bowers for Georgia. Now, I do want to update you guys real quick. Also, speaking of injuries, we have Brock Bowers this year for Georgia. Jase McClellan for Alabama. Because of his foot, I don't know if he did anything against Auburn or if this is practice or what it is, but 4 days ago it was put out that Jase McClellan, the running back for Alabama, the go-to guy, he is questionable. Could be game time decision for this game on Saturday. So there's a couple injuries going around. So he was injured actually in the fourth quarter of the Iron Bowl using crutches, wearing a boot on his left foot. I read this from Mark Schlabach of ESPN. Wearing a boot on his left foot late in the game, McClellan ran for 66 yards on 15 carries before he was hurt. Saban in his press conference said that he's had a foot injury all year long, actually. Tweaked it in the game, so he'll be day-to-day this week. I can't tell you how much progress he'll make. Probably the next 48 hours will tell us whether he'll make the kind of progress he needs to be able to practice and play in the. That's what Nick Saban said. So he basically came out about Jase and said, I don't know about Jase McClellan. He said, I know he's been hurt this year. He's been dealing with a foot injury, and we'll wait 48 hours. That's what Saban had to say. That being said, I don't really have much else to say. It's time to predict. We'll get into it. Alabama for the SEC championship. We've been talking about it. Get ready. It's going to be good. It'll be a good game. I have a feeling Alabama's going to do something, though. I really do. And if Georgia loses, are they in the playoffs? I have heard scenarios where they might need help, but I've also heard that it's possible that they cheat their way in, not cheat, but sneak into the playoff without any help. Like they'll just give them a spot. But you got to think about this for a second. Florida State, Pac-12, Texas, and then a SEC champion in Alabama? How does Georgia get in? Do they need Texas to lose? I think so. Plus, what if Washington loses to Oregon on Friday? I look at that. I'd say, could you put 2 Pac-12 teams in there? Georgia would need help to make the playoffs if they lose this game. And I don't really think they have much strength of schedule. I mean, they have some good wins. They beat 3 ranked teams, 4 ranked teams, but a couple of those teams have actually fallen off a bit, like Kentucky. So I'm not here to rip on Georgia. I'm not trying to make fun of their schedule or anything. I'm just pointing out what I have heard, what I have seen, and I don't know. I feel like if you don't win your conference, and I know Alabama snuck in once, I understand that. I'm thankful for 2nd and 26. But let's be honest, they didn't deserve that. They snuck their way in, and behold, they won a championship. If you don't win your conference, you shouldn't make the playoffs. We've seen it happen before with like Notre Dame. We've seen it with Alabama. We saw it with Georgia 2 years ago. But benefit of the doubt for Georgia, they're getting in win or lose. I know it. You know it. Your mama and daddy know it. It's going to happen. They're going to get in the playoffs. Now to my score prediction. The line favors Georgia by 6 points. I don't think it's covered. I have confidence that Alabama can get the job done. I know they struggled with Auburn, but it's a rivalry game. Come on. It's a rivalry game. You gotta understand how huge the Iron Bowl is. Even Uncle Lou this week on his Your Season Is Over said, I'm done, making fun of it. Like, there's just something magical about that field. There's something about the Iron Bowl. There's something about Auburn. There's something about – I mean, you got guys out there admitting it now, seeing it for what it is. I've been trying to tell everybody Jordan-Hare is a cursed field and weird voodoo goes on down there. This isn't Jordan-Hare. This is Atlanta. Georgia's backyard. Georgia should have advantage. They do have advantage. But I can't pick against Alabama in this game. I just, ever since that Texas loss, have they looked perfect? No. They've looked kind of sloppy in some games like USF. But with Jalen Milroe being the guy, let's not forget that Tyler Buchner started week 3. And let's also not forget that we had 3 guys that could have been the starter this year for Alabama. Let's not forget that. But now it's Jalen Milroe's job to lose. He's not going to lose his job. He'll start next year too. Guarantee. Unless something crazy happens. The line favors Georgia by 6. I'm going to go half that on my score prediction. It's hard to beat the same team twice. And I say that in terms that the last time they played, Georgia won. You don't think Saban's forgot about the 33-18? He hasn't forgot. He hasn't forgot about it. He knows. He knows what happened the last time Georgia played Alabama. He also knows that Alabama's a bit of an underdog. But he also knows what it's going to take to win. He knows what it's going to take to win. And I know something that the rest of you might not understand. Alabama owns Georgia all time. 42-26-4 is the record in the series that Alabama has. They're either going to get their 43rd win over the Dogs, or the Dogs are going to get their 27th over the Tide. And I also know that it's hard to go undefeated another year in a row. Georgia can't do it. I'm sorry. They might make the playoffs. They're not winning the SEC. I say Alabama gets in the way of a 15-0 record, and they wreck the Georgia Bulldogs. And I don't mean blow them out. I mean they just break their hearts. I'm going to say a close game by a field goal. I think Will Reichard breaks the tie in the end, 27-24. Give me the Crimson Tide in the SEC Championship in 2023. You really thought I was going to come in here and pick Georgia? You're out of your mind. Gosh, I'm fired up now. This is going to be a great game, down to the wire. Everyone's going to watch it. I'll be at work, but I'll keep an eye on it. Promise. Bama's got this. Bama's got this. 6 points by Georgia. Come on, spread. Come on with that spread. Alabama by 3. By 3. That's what I got. Y'all have a good day. I love y'all. God bless you. God loves you. And we'll see you next time. Ballard Sports Media. Check it out. Love y'all. Peace. Roll Tide.
Alabama, where I was born, Alabama, where I'm from. Don't throw your hands up, put it up, you act like I ain't talking about it. I'm talking about the hell, I'm talking about the deal. ALABA, make it, this what I did. Alabama, where I was born, Alabama, where I'm from.